Hi everyone. I don't know about you guys, but I absolutely hate doing WRITS. Really, I really don't have time for that. I only have one character that's leveled to do them, and it's been over a year since I've consistently done WRITS every day. It's incredibly boring, and I'm not going to grind that stuff out. I've got better things to do, you know? So, that gave me the idea to share how I make millions of gold while really just passively playing the game and not hating every second of it. I need to fund my housing and potion addiction somehow, plus the price of gold mats these days is really getting out of control. Oh, and I do want to mention that I don't claim that any of these points are the best or the quickest way to get gold. I just wanted to share what I do. Let's just get into it. I just wanted to preface this first. This isn't really a direct way to get gold, but trust me, being a tank will really help you get gold so much quicker. In fact, make multiple tanks. Be like me, have 6 tanks. Actually, why stop there? Just make 18 tanks, go ham. But anyways, you should also download the Tamriel Trade Center add-on. This is not a sponsor. Some people will tell you that you don't need it, but trust me, you really do. It cuts down on search time, and I love the search online function that shows up when you right-click something. So yeah, this will really help you with a lot of the points I'm going to bring up, and you'll understand why shortly. My main or biggest income source is probably style page farming. This is something I've done on the regular since early 2021. There hasn't been a style page since then that I haven't farmed. For those of you who are unaware, Monster Helm style pages have a small chance to drop for a certain period of time from the last boss in a dungeon on veteran difficulty. These drops are only available when the corresponding arms pack is on the crown store. There isn't always style pages dropping, but a lot of the time there is one that drops for a whole month. There are also limited time arms packs, which most of the time will be returning styles that were available in the past, but they will occasionally be new. These ones tend to only drop for a week or two. These are typically the more sought after style pages because there is obviously less time to get them. The style of the mask and the difficulty of the dungeon also contribute to how expensive they are and how much supply there is. For example, the Alhambra style page from Crypt of Hearts 1 was only worth a couple $100,000, whereas a DLC dungeon mask like Kjalnar from Unhallowed Grave is worth 3 to 5 mil when it was released. I could go on and on about how to optimize the sales of these, but I'll stick to the basics. I haven't mentioned yet that the corresponding shoulder page also drops from the Undaunted Pledge Givers. The person selling the Undaunted shoulder coffer will also have the shoulder page available. You can buy the page outright for 50 Undaunted keys, or it also has a small chance to drop from the dungeon-specific 5 key coffers or the 1 key mystery coffers. The shoulder style pages are way more easier to obtain, hence why they're worth a fraction of the price of the monster style page. While they may be dirt cheap when they're dropping, the trick to these is when you actually go to sell them, which is my next point. You have 2 options of making gold with Monster Helm style pages. You can either sell them immediately, take your money and run, or you could wait for the value to go up. If you're lucky enough to get a style page on the first day or 2 when it releases, you might benefit quite a bit from selling that early. Otherwise, the price will plummet very quickly and you might have to keep relisting. Your other option is sitting on the style page. This is more of a long-term investment though, however, the more desirable the style is, the quicker the price will go up. I do this a lot, particularly if I get multiple masks and shoulder pages. I would personally recommend holding on to the style pages for a while, but if you need quick cash, just sell them as soon as possible. Now, what's the best way to farm these style pages? Well, remember how I said to be a tank? If you have a tank, that's basically an instant queue if you're trying to use the dungeon finder. But if you have 3 other friends who want to farm the page, this is the best option. Get your friends together and do a bunch of runs. Not a lot of people know this, but you don't actually have to do hard mode every time you go to farm the mask page. To increase your chance of getting a drop, you only need to have the hard mode achievement unlocked. It is actually much quicker to farm the dungeon without hard mode, as long as everyone has the achievement. The best way to get the shoulder pages is to actually save up your undaunted keys and buy the 1 key mystery coffers. I do this every time there's a style page dropping, and I've gotten about 1 to 4 style pages per 50 keys spent. This is also a good option if you don't have all the monster shoulders in your sticker book as well, so it's a win-win. Now, I can hear you saying, but I don't have that many keys to spend, and well, my answer to you is do pledges every day. Again, this comes back to being a tank, and if you do pledges on a tank, then you'll get an instant queue, and if you have multiple tanks, you get the idea. Or you could join a PvE guild and get some friends together to run pledges with. Save up on keys and blow them when the style pages come out. I hope everyone understands this is definitely not a get-rich-quick technique, but it really does pay off if you hold on to your monster mask and shoulder style pages for a few months and sell them when the price has multiplied significantly. Now, in a similar vein to style page farming, motif farming. With this, I'm specifically talking about dungeon and trial motifs, but this can apply to overland motifs as well. One thing I love to do is keep an eye on the monthly Crown Store showcase that ZOS releases at the beginning of every month. This will tell you when a new motif is going to be released. Typically, new dungeon and trial motifs drop a few months after that they are released to give people a reason to go back to them. This is a very lucrative way to make gold, especially if you're already doing a lot of dungeons or trials. When new dungeon motifs come out, this is when you need to get a group together and farm. In dungeons, there's a very small chance for a motif to drop on normal, a bigger chance to drop a motif on vet, and everyone in the group is guaranteed a motif drop on hard mode, with an additional chance to get a double drop. There are some situations where all 4 group members will get 2 motifs dropping, meaning 8 motifs in total for 1 run on hard mode. Unlike farming style pages, I would recommend farming dungeons on hard mode for that guaranteed motif drop if you have a group that's capable of it. If you're pugging, or if your group is not efficient enough to farm on hard mode, doing veteran should be fine. Overall, it really just depends on the dungeon. And remember what I said about being a tank? Yeah, instant queue equals higher chance of getting drops.
Money, 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 money.
Farming trials for motifs is a little different, as you can only get a coffer once a week per character. Unlike dungeons, you don't need to do hard mode trials for a guaranteed motif drop. The motif drop is RNG when you open a coffer at the end of the trial. If you have multiple characters that you can bring to do trials, this is the most optimal way to farm motifs, as your other characters will not be on cooldown for the coffer. Due to this weekly cooldown, the prices of new motifs from trials tend to not plummet as quickly. Farming trial motifs is definitely on the higher skill level end, but if you have a group capable of doing it, then do it. It's also worth mentioning that there are old motifs that are still worth a lot of gold, and their price has skyrocketed since no one is doing the dungeons and trials anymore. A couple I can think of off the top of my head are Crimson Oath from the Dreadcellar and Ramothra from Maw of Lorcage. The price of these are mostly due to the style and the lack of players doing the content and the difficulty level as well. It's definitely worth farming some of these. Buying cheap jewelry and deconstructing it to sell grains and platings is also a great way to make gold. This is something I've been doing for a while, and while it's similar to flipping, it may be a bit less time consuming. With the price of jewelry materials still going up, a lot of people do not realize the average price of grains and will sell their jewelry pieces for a fraction of what they would have gotten if they deconstructed it and sold the grains. I like to buy blue and purple jewelry to deconstruct. Determining your price range depends on the price of the grains. Using Tamriel Trade Center to check the price is highly recommended. For example, at the time of recording this, the suggested price for iridium grains is around 1,500 to 2,000 gold. I would then only buy blue jewelry for 1,200 gold or less. There's actually a surprising amount of people selling blue jewelry for even 1,000 gold. The best time to use this gold making technique is during events. Since everyone is doing quests and bosses for events, there's a huge influx of jewelry on the market, and due to that, the price of the jewelry itself drops. For example, during the Elsewhere event, there were loads of people just farming dragons, and since dragons would always drop jewelry, there was so much being listed on guild traders. I think this is quite an easy way to make some extra gold, but is definitely still an investment. Selling sets can also be a great way to passively make gold. It's something people often overlook, but if you have a good knowledge of the game and keep yourself informed on which non-dungeon and trial sets are popular, you'll be able to make some nice cash. There are quite a few sets which you can sell that are popular for PvP or for beginner and intermediate players who don't have dungeon or trial sets. Most of the sets are sourced from overland zones or from PvP coffers. If you have more experience in the game, you'll learn which sets and traits to look for on certain items, and will be able to figure out if something you have is trash or gold. Some good traits to look for on items are Divines, impenetrable for PvP, precise, infused, and charged on weapons. Another way to get an idea of the value of something you have is to install the Tamriel Trade Center add-on. There's been so many times when I'm about to deconstruct a set piece and then see that it sells for like 100k or more. You can also increase the value of your items before selling them by improving them. I'd only suggest improving to purple quality, as gold mats are expensive these days. A good way to get set items is by doing zone dailies, quests, PvP, and the dreaded treasure maps. Furniture hoarding is another long-term investment, but a good way to make gold as well. It's not as effective as the other things I've mentioned, but if you're a housing main like me, it works. By this though, I'm specifically talking about furniture from the luxury furnishing vendor. For those of you who don't know about it, he only appears on the weekends in Cold Harbor, and the items he offers for sale changes every week. Some of these furnishing items can gain quite a high value over time, as they're only available once a year. Buying multiple of these items and then storing them in a house and then selling them later once the price rises is a good way to invest your gold. Alright, now back to the real gamer content, trials. Farming veteran trials for gold is also a good way to passively make gold. Selling the undaunted plunder you get from each boss, and the gold trophy at the end if you do hard mode, can be decent gold. You also get gold jewelry at the end of some veteran trials. However, some trials you need to do hard mode to obtain the gold quality. If you're trying to farm chromium grains, doing Etherean Archive on veteran or hard mode is probably one of the quickest trials to get gold jewelry. Even though you might not be making millions from trials, I find this one one of the fun ways to passively make gold.
2 shots of vodka.
If you're like me and do a lot of veteran dungeons and trials, you'll be getting so much purple gear. Instead of selling it all to a merchant, deconstruct everything. It actually shocks me how many people just merchant gear. I'd highly recommend getting the deconstruction assistant Gilladil for easy deconstructing on the go. Over time, you'll get thousands of purple materials, and you can just sell a stack of those for a decent amount of gold. They don't sell for a lot, but it's still another source of income from just playing the game. This is something I don't think a lot of people know about, but it's a great way to get rid of all of those somewhat archaic and useless mimic stones everyone has piling up. You can turn them into style crafting materials and sell them. A lot of style crafting materials are worth more than some people would expect, as they are used in crafting furniture. A lot of these style materials are also only obtained through daily zone quests. The more expensive ones are arc sand sprockets, I think that's how you say that, Kulanda lacquer, shimmering sand, hackwing plumage, Stendar stamps, and ivory brigade clasps. However, there are more style materials worth a few thousand each. Check the prices with Tamriel Trade Center. So, how do you actually turn the stones into style materials? It's pretty simple. You just need to know at least one motif in the style that you're wanting to sell. Pick an item you want to make. This can be any level and any material. Find the style you want to mimic and make sure you tick the Crown Mimic Stone box. Craft as many items as you want and then deconstruct them. That's it, just rinse and repeat from there. It's not a 100% success rate, but the return is pretty good, and no one uses those fucking Mimic Stones anyways. A similar way to making gold with the Mimic Stones is using Transmutes to farm potent nirncrux. This is only a good idea if you seem to have an abundance of Transmutes that you don't need.
That was too good. Let's get the developer.
Often, I'm actually in desperate need of Transmutes, so I don't use this method much anymore. However, if some of you don't have 6 tanks to gear out like me, and some DPS as well, then this is a good way to put those Transmutes to use. Actually, speaking of tanks, again, this goes back to my point about making a tank to get quick Qs. So, if you do random normals every day, you'll have loads of Transmutes in no time. Anyways, the process of doing this is pretty simple. Craft a weapon, any level. Go to a transmute station, transmute the weapon to Nirn. Go back to the crafting station and deconstruct it. You should hopefully get a potent nirncrux back, but remember it's not a 100% success rate. This is why I would only recommend this method if you have way too many transmutes that you're never going to use. Obviously, like I said at the start, I'm not claiming these techniques are how to get rich quick or the most optimal way to make gold, but they're just some ideas that new players or even potentially some veteran players might not know about. There are plenty of other ways to make gold in this game, and particularly if you are more of a casual player, doing WRITS and farming materials may be a better option for you. This is just how I do it. If you guys have any methods that you use to make gold, let me know in the comments. Anyways, thanks for watching everyone. I did want to mention I have a Twitter now if you guys want to follow me over there. I post memes, updates, and other random shit. So yeah, thanks again for watching, and please like and subscribe.